levels of government to make truly lasting and comprehensive change. Thank you again to everyone for being here, and please do continue to share our heat relief resources throughout the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. We appreciate your optimism and call to action to the community.
ADOT, connecting Arizona. From the snow-capped mountains of northern Arizona to the arid desert and lush farmland of the central and southern regions of our state, Arizona's natural beauty is diverse and breathtaking. Residents and tourists alike certainly enjoy our scenic state. Unfortunately, sometimes a closer look reveals litter.
I found a lot of socks.
ADOT spends about $8 million a year cleaning up litter along our state highways. Removing litter from our roads and highways is a time-consuming and costly job that threatens to get worse as Arizona's population grows.
Thank you for participating in the Adopt a Highway program.
So we greatly appreciate the help of Arizona's citizens like you who volunteer in our Adopt a Highway program.
Give your guys self a hand.
Your group has graciously agreed to clean up litter along a specific section of highway for a period of 2 years. As you begin your efforts, please keep in mind that a public highway can be dangerous, and some basic safety issues must be considered before you start work. So, are you ready to tackle the trash?
I'm ready. We ready.
It is important that you properly prepare yourself for the workday. Proper clothing and hydration are 2 priorities. When it comes to water, ask yourself these questions and plan accordingly for your water supply. How many people will be in your group? How many hours do you plan to work? How many miles do you plan to cover? What is the forecast temperature for the day? Now, think about your location. Does your cell phone get service where your adopted road is in case of emergency? How far is the nearest medical facility? Next, think about what to wear. Since most everything in Arizona has thorns, long-sleeve shirts and pants are recommended because of the harsh terrain, cactus, reptiles, and insects you may encounter. Wear protective gloves and strong-soled shoes or boots. Avoid sandals or loose-fitting shoes. Don't forget your sunscreen, and you'll probably want a hat too. Congratulations, you're ready to pick up trash. Your group should carpool as much as possible to keep the number of cars on site to a minimum. And always remember to park as far away from the roadway as possible. Next, your group coordinator will conduct a safety meeting for all group members. Each person must wear a safety vest at all times. Safety vests, along with trash bags, will be supplied to you by ADOT. Remember, no children below the age of 12 or pets are permitted in the program or in the work area. For your safety, do not utilize music players. Your ears are often the first thing to warn you of imminent danger. Appoint a lookout for your group. Work facing oncoming traffic, and remember to stay at least 5 feet from the pavement edge. The fewer distractions for the traveling public and your group, the better. Now, when it comes to trash, know what you're picking up. If you cannot identify it, don't pick it up. This brings us to the topic of hazardous waste.
Methamphetamine is the #1 drug abused in the United States and Arizona today, and is responsible for a lot of our violent crime.
The sun is rising.
Each pound of meth that is manufactured produces 5 to 6 pounds of hazardous materials as waste. So when you're out here on the roadway, don't pick up things that have tubing that is red, ice chests that are red, or red chemical bottles. Bad guys throw them out here because they don't want to get caught with them. Also, leave those corroded propane bottles alone. Used car batteries, needles, syringes, or anything that you don't know what it is. The best rule of thumb is if you are uncertain, don't touch it and inform local law enforcement. Remember, be alert.
Also, do not enter pipes or culverts. The danger is too high, so let the pros deal with that. You should pick up small items made of paper, cardboard, plastic, styrofoam, wood, or rubber. Glass items and small empty containers are okay if they do not have sharp edges. Tie your bags securely shut and place the filled bags at least 6 feet from the pavement edge. Do not overfill or overstuff the bags. ADOT workers must lift these bags into their trucks. Place large or heavier items like tire debris or any items that would tear a bag near the filled bags. Remember, don't move anything that could cause you or your team members physical harm. ADOT will remove your filled trash bags from the roadside after the cleanup is complete. Avoid overexertion and drink plenty of fluids to stay hydrated. Adopt a Highway program encourages recycling, so collect the recyclables and take them with you. Make sure your group has enough water and that on-site first aid is available. Leave snakes alone. People are bitten because they try to kill a snake or get a closer look at it. Keep hands and feet out of areas you cannot see. Don't pick up rocks or firewood. Be cautious and alert at all times. If you or a group member is bitten, wash the bite with soap and water. Immobilize the bitten area and keep it lower than the heart and get medical help. Remember, you signed a permit to do this. That permit has terms and conditions. It is very important that you read and abide by them. Inform your ADOT Adopt a Highway contact at least 5 days prior to the cleanup effort. We need to make sure your dates don't conflict with other highway uses, so it's very important to know who your Adopt a Highway contact is and that they have your contact information. We need to know as quickly as possible if a new coordinator is appointed or if you change any of your contact information. Make sure everyone in your group fills out a volunteer registration form before each cleanup. The Arizona Department of Transportation wants this to be a rewarding and safe experience for all of you. Volunteers like you make this program successful by giving your time and energy to make a positive impact on the environment. Your efforts are appreciated, very much so, not only by ADOT, but also by the citizens of Arizona and the visitors who will enjoy a cleaner state because of your hard work. So spread the word. Arizona, keep it grand. ADOT, connecting Arizona.
We are in Mesa right now. We're actually on the edge of Mesa, and this is where the beginning of the new portion of the SR-24 freeway is going to be starting. The existing SR-24 freeway is back towards the Santan 202. The joke is it actually is the shortest freeway in the system currently at just under a mile. We're going to be adding on 5 miles starting here at Ellsworth, going east to the Ironwood Drive. So from Ellsworth Road to Ironwood Drive, and there's a few major intersections in the entirety of the run. So the project started back in November 20th of 2020. It was scoped for 630 days, calendar days. So the contract is going to be done on August 11th of 2022. Currently we're on project schedule, so that's a good thing. Hopefully you're going to start to see the finishing touches coming here in the spring and the summertime, so that once we get to that August date, everything's going to be taken care of. Essentially what we have here is the interim condition of the freeway. So what that means is we're actually going to only be having 2 lanes eastbound and 2 lanes westbound. The full condition, or the ultimate condition of the freeway, is going to be 3 lanes with 1 HOV, but that's going to be completed and widened out when there's future funding with a future project. Essentially what we have here, once this project is completed next year, is going to be a series of mainline and ramps. So traffic is actually going to go on mainline, and it's going to go on and off ramps through the major intersections. The future projects will add freeway mainline and bridges once we get there. So as everybody knows, this entire area of City of Mesa, Queen Creek, even all the way down to Santan Valley, is absolutely exploding in terms of population. So the 2 major routes in and out right now are just Ellsworth Road and Ironwood Road, Ironwood Drive, I should say. We're going to be getting an east-west flow through this area. And so what we're doing is we're increasing the capacity so that people are able to get around better, you know, to not only businesses, but their homes, residences, anywhere people need to be getting to. We want to be able to get them there safely and as quickly as possible.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much. My name is Steve Schumacher. I am the Mayor's Office official historian. For a guy like me with my veteran status, I call it MOO. It makes it easier to remember. M-O-O-H. So I was asked a couple days ago if I could stand up here to kick this off and talk about why are we even here, Steve? Why March? Why not November? Why not January? And to provide a little bit of context, as most of us historians know, somewhere in the neighborhood of, well, numerous centuries ago, the Huhugam were here, and at one point during their peak, there was estimated to be in the neighborhood of 50,000 people living here in the valley. Now, in addition to that number of people living here, archaeologists have documented that they dug over 500 miles of canals in the valley as well. So those are the original pioneers of the valley and the original pioneers of the Phoenix area. Unfortunately, for a number of centuries following that period, the canals and the ditches and the valley, pretty much in terms of Euro-Americans, there were none here. And then in the late 1860s, some came from Wickenburg, and they identified the canals that the Huhugam had dug numerous centuries before. And being the farmer capitalists that they were, they thought, well, if we can put some adaptive reuse to a couple of these canals, we can get some water flowing from the Salt River, grow some crops, sell them to the Fort McDowell and the miners in Wickenburg, and make some money. And so that's what they did. And so again, why March? March is the month that those Euro-Americans found one of the early Huhugam canals, and reused it. And on March 12th exactly, 2 days from now, the first shovelful of dirt opened that first canal to water coming in from the Salt River, and the rest of it is history. So that's why March is important. That's why we're celebrating today, not just because of that shovelful of dirt that happened, but because of the origins of the Hohokam and the Euro-Americans that came after. So it's a dual celebration for those reasons today. Without our distinguished Mayor Gallego, none of this would be happening, believe me. With her vision and her help and her guidance, we're able to take some time out and celebrate our history and do a lot of things to celebrate it as we move forward. So with that, I would like to take a minute, introduce our distinguished mayor, and welcome her to this gathering this morning. Mayor Gallego, please.
Good morning, I'm Phoenix Mayor Kate Gallego, and I'm excited to celebrate Phoenix History Month with all of you. Thank you to Steve for serving as our first Mayor's Office official historian. We believe that the more people know about our history, the better, and that we will make better decisions if we understand how we came here to be. So it's my goal as mayor to talk about our history more often, to learn more about our history, and to celebrate some of our great milestones. I want to thank you for all the work you have done for our city and continue to do. We're joined today by several distinguished speakers. We'll have Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian Community Vice President Leonard, who will speak to us. We're going to talk about our historic buildings, and I want to thank Aaron for joining us for that portion, and Professor Thibault for also providing important context to today's discussion. We have a rich history. I'll start my remarks today about the same period where Steve did nearly 1,000 years ago, where the Hohokam were really ahead of their time. Their work was engineering marvels to create this incredible system at the turn of the millennium. Around 600 years after they began that work, the population grew too large for sustainable living. So like true problem solvers, they began to construct canals for irrigation. Using, we think, digging sticks, they excavated 12-foot deep canals, fanning into a larger network of smaller canals. They successfully got water to flow for 700 miles over flat desert landscape. They've navigated hills and valleys. It's pretty remarkable. Though no one knows the exact reason the Hohokam left, it may have been because of outgrowing their capacity to sustain life in the desert, especially during prolonged periods of drought. The term Hohokam is said to be Pima for those who vanished, but I want to make it clear that history has not vanished. In the centuries that followed the Hohokam, new arrivals to Phoenix created the economic opportunity. It's roots that give us the name of our city, rising from that important infrastructure investment. The newcomers absolutely realized the feats of those who came before them and continued to invest using that infrastructure. That led to the eventual creation, among other developments, of what we now know today as the Salt River Project and the Salt River Water Users Association. Our city's Euro-American history begins with people working together in partnership, collectively, to address a very difficult challenge. It gives some of the spirit that we have here today, where we come together and say, to sustain life in the desert requires cooperation. As someone in local government who believes that we're better off when we collaborate, I love that our city's roots include that part of our story. Today we are thriving because our past is ever present. We continue to build upon the first Phoenicians' legacy of innovation during tough times. That's really one of our great values as a city. Our history is still being written every day, and some pieces are repeating themselves, including combating a historic drought among economic development and changing conditions in our region. The most recent period of our city's history makes us a relatively young city compared to other U.S. and global cities, but we stand upon a rich and long foundation. I know that there's so much more that we will accomplish, but to better understand how things came to be, we need to reflect on that past, and that is why I am excited to pronounce March officially Phoenix History Month. Throughout the month, city departments, including our Planning and Development Department, will be putting out educational videos and talking about our roots. This will lead into a November election where voters will decide whether to put $5 million into historic preservation. I hope Phoenicians will contribute along and help Steve tell the history of our story, of our city. If you have information we ought to highlight, we want to know about it. So I'll ask Steve to come forward and accept the proclamation.
Thank you so much, man.
And do I introduce the Vice President?
No, I can do that if you like. Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it.
Good morning and welcome to the Transportation Infrastructure and Planning Subcommittee meeting for June 21st, 2023. I call the meeting to order at 10:34, and we will start with the City Attorney explaining public comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. During citizen comment, members of the public may address the subcommittee for up to 3 minutes on issues of interest or concern to them. The Arizona Open Meeting Law permits the subcommittee members to listen to the comments, but prohibits members from discussing or acting on matters presented. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And do we have an interpreter today?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hello, my name is Elsie Duarte. I will be servicing as a Spanish interpreter for today's Transportation Infrastructure and Planning Subcommittee session. I will now take a moment to introduce myself to our Spanish-speaking audience and review some guidelines. Buenos días, bienvenidos a la sesión de la Subcomisión de Transportación, Infraestructura y Planificación. Mi nombre es Elsie Duarte y estaré sirviéndoles hoy como intérprete a nuestra audiencia de habla hispana. Deseamos pedirles antemano, si va a dar un comentario público, por favor, hable despacio, con claridad y evite tener distracciones de fondo. Finalmente, pause después de cada 1 o 2 oraciones para poder interpretar lo que esté diciendo de la manera más completa posible. Gracias. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And although I'm sitting up here by myself, there are a couple of the members joining us by WebEx and phone, Councilwoman Pastor and Councilwoman O'Brien. So we do indeed have a quorum. The first item is call to the public, and I believe we have no speakers for that. So we'll move quickly to approval of the minutes. May I have a motion?
I move the minutes.
Second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. It passes unanimously. Next, we have items 2, 3, 4, and 5, which are on consent. May I have a motion on that?
Move consent items.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
The consent passes unanimously. We have information items 6, 7, 8, and 9. Are there any questions with regards to that? Any of those items?
No.
Okay, great. I'm going to, if you don't mind, take item 12 out of order because we do have a speaker for this one and we do need to take an action. And I know one of our council members is kind of in a jam for time, so let's go to that. Thank you. Item 12 is an amendment to the Phoenix City Code regarding short-term rentals. Ma'am, there's going to be a presentation. You might as well sit and I'll call you up, okay? I know you're anxious to speak and we can't wait to hear what you have to say, but let's let staff present first. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, item 12 is an amendment to Phoenix City Code Chapter 10 on short-term rentals, and here to present are Alan Stevenson, Deputy City Manager, and Mark Thornton from Planning and Development. Turn it over to Alan.
Thank you, Mario. Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, as Mario stated, this is a proposed text amendment to the zoning ordinance to address short-term rentals within the city of Phoenix. On here. Slide, please. Perfect. All right. Sorry about that. Thank you. Okay. So there was a change in state statute as it relates to the city's ability to regulate short-term rentals. And with that change, it's a very prescriptive state law change that allows the cities to either do a permit for them or a license of short-term rentals. And so that's what we are working on with this proposed amendment. The quick overview of the changes to state statute here, and then Mr. Thornton will go over some of the additional requirements that are in our proposed ordinance. And so the state law changes an existing registration process, replaces it with the limited permit license application process. It is very prescriptive, as I stated, in that it must be approved or denied within 7 days. The denials can have to be something that is they did not meet a object criteria that they have to submit an application for in terms of something they had to comply with. There is not a discretionary denial. It is something that still is a matter of statewide concern from the state legislature's perspective, and they preempt cities from being able to add discretionary approvals for short-term rentals. It must be done within 7 days. It prescribes that a permit fee and a renewal fee is a max of $250, and the owner or designee may appeal that denial or suspension. There are also some other appeals in there as it relates to enforcement issues that are prescribed by state statute. With that, I'm going to turn over to Mr. Thornton, who's going to walk us through our proposed ordinance, and we'll be happy to answer any questions at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Madam Chair, I'll go through the nuts and bolts of the new amendment. So essentially, an owner-operator has, if they are noticed of operating illegally, has 30 days to come in and apply and obtain a permit. For every month that they do not, they will receive a $1,000 penalty. So the application requirements that Alan spoke of, the state statute states that the maximum we can charge is $250 per permit that we take in. Requires the owner-operator to get a TPT license and then also register with the county assessor's office and then just abide by our building code and zoning ordinance. One of the things it also prescribes is that they have to have an emergency contact on file. So if an incident happens on site, a responding officer or officer can go and make contact with that individuals, and they can come on site and deal with the issue right then and there. Again, another $1,000 penalty for every 30 days that does not happen. So notice the owner-operator has to let the adjacent property owners know of their intent to operate or that they currently are operating as a short-term rental to their adjacent property owners, and then display that with each individual advertisement that they do to the general public. And then they have to carry a $500,000 liability insurance certificate. So one of the things it also does, state law requires that the owner-operator conduct background checks for sex offenders on any of their renters. It requires, for civil penalties for the first, second, and third, $500, $1,000, and $3,500 for the violations. If there are multiple calls for service, the state statute states that that equates to one violation per subject property. An owner or operator may appeal a suspension or a non-renewal of a permit to a hearing officer that would be designated by our director, Mr. Josh Bednarik. And again, the city may suspend a permit and or license with some applicability. So what we're currently working on is making sure that we're in compliance with all of our sister cities. So as you can see from the graph, the large municipalities, Tempe, Scottsdale, Mesa, Paradise Valley, have all over this past year implemented all of the state requirements that you see on the left. Glendale has yet to implement a short-term rental ordinance for their municipality, but we're right where we should be as far as our sister cities. So what's next? We have been working with our internal stakeholders, our sister departments, and then also external outreach. We've been meeting with representatives from the Arizona Neighborhood Alliance, Ms. Kate Bauer, and then Ms. Susan Edwards, who I believe you will hear from. And we will bring it back to the full council for consideration on September 6th. We'll continue over the summer months to refine, answer questions, work with our sister departments on the amendment itself. We're happy to answer any questions, and staff recommends approval of the draft city code amendment to implement a limited permit process consistent with state statute. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there any questions from Councilwoman Pastor or Councilwoman O'Brien?
Yes, ma'am. This is Councilwoman O'Brien.
Yes, Councilwoman O'Brien.
So I'm curious how we will enforce the background check for sex offenders. Can you explain how that will work?
Madam Chair, committee members, so the onus is put on the owner-operator to conduct that background check and then to keep those documents on file.
So I understand that, but and how would we verify that they are indeed doing it?
Madam Chair, committee members, so that would be through our enforcement division, but also we are complaint driven. So if there's an issue on file or we receive one for a multitude of issues, one of those being that, we would go out and check and make sure that they are up to date and that they have those records retained somewhere on file that we could take a look at.
Madam Chair, Councilman O'Brien, if I could just add to that, if there was an issue, what we would do in working with Neighborhood Services Department via enforcement is request copies of those records to show that they have been complying with that part of the ordinance proposal. So that's how we would look at it if there were issues. There aren't resources to go every time someone's renting one of those to get that information from individuals who are renting them.
And when you're doing the stakeholder process, do they understand that?
Madam Chair, committee members, they do. With the individual in which I spoke to, they also shared some concerns regarding that portion of the state statute as well. So.
And Councilwoman, I might add that I've had a chance to talk to Kate Bauer, and she actually runs a state organization with regards to short-term rental, and I think staff has met with her several times and have kept her in the loop. She's been involved in the ordinances that were written in both Scottsdale and Paradise Valley as well. Thank you. And any other questions? Because Councilwoman Pastor has her hand.
No, I'm good.
So,
go ahead, Councilwoman.
Thank you. On the background check for sex offenders, I guess my question is, because it doesn't sound like there's any enforcement, because I wouldn't know if a neighbor would know whoever's renting is a sex offender and if they are doing what they should be doing. So I would like to flip the script, and if that's the case, that they have to do a background check for sex offenders, then I would like that to be submitted to the city, or put some language towards that. We at least have documentations that they are submitting, that there are background checks, and then we're able then to, the one that is highlighted with the sex offender, we know we can pull that one, and the rest we can shred, or however we do it. But there's some way where we have the ability to enforce, other than complaint driven.
Madam Chair, committee members, Councilwoman Pastor, so just to make sure that I have your note correct, would you like background checks not only for sex offender, or are you talking about other issues as well, felonies, other convictions?
All of it. I mean, they're obviously doing background checks. Is that what my understanding is?
For sex offender only, per state statute.
Okay.
So if that's something that you would like to, I just want to make sure we have it correct, yeah.
We can explore further, but per state statute, if that's what we need to do, then that's definitely one. But I want to be able to then have a record, or be able then to know where then enforcement needs to go. Because to trust, or the fact that we would never know if anybody's doing it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Madam Chair, Councilwoman Pastor, quickly I want to clarify that we, as part of the permit process, will be doing the sex offender background check on the manager of the short-term rental. So staff will require that compliance up front. It's just getting in all of the paperwork for different rentals on the individual owners that is going to be time-consuming to do and adhere to. And so that's what staff was putting on the owner, so that if they didn't do that, then we would be able to look at revoking their permit because they didn't comply with those requirements when we asked for it, is how it would work under the currently proposed system. But I understand you're wanting us to look at how we can get individual documentation from each renter that will come in from the owner or manager. Is that correct?
Right. I mean, I don't know how we would, other than the onus is on the person who has the short-term rental piece. So how do we know if they find one and just decide to ignore it or not do it? How do we know that, other than a neighbor doing background checks on whoever's renting? It doesn't make any logic to me. So there has to be a way where we are aware, so then we can enforce, other than allowing somebody just to make a complaint.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, we can certainly look at that as a as a proposal, and we come to the full council, talk about that. It will require additional staff resources that we will not be able to pay for via the permit, because the state law establishes a permit maximum that isn't going to cover existing staff time to administer the program as currently envisioned. And so adding this other component will require additional staff to then monitor that, take in the paperwork, make sure that whatever that renter is on that day, it does not have a violation from a sex offender, and verify that information. And so that will be, a expensive endeavor given the amount of short-term rentals that we think are out there. And so we'll come back with a proposal to talk about what that would ultimately cost in terms of staff time to try and do something more, with what you're asking. I understand it, and I think we can at least come back with a proposal to the council.
So I understand that, Alan, and I would greatly appreciate some type of proposal or some type of innovative way of being able to know for enforcement purposes, but I don't know what that looks like. And I think from there, as a collective or as a council, then we could figure out the additional resources if available and need to. But that's concerning to me. So, and I think I'm speaking for many that are watching this. My question is on slide 5. Another question, I'm sorry, Madam Chair. It's the application process, and it says it's a 30 days, $1,000 penalty. My question is, what happens if they don't follow the application requirements? And how does the department know to enforce, and who enforces? It's like, I think it's slide 5 and 6.
Sure. So, Madam Chair, Councilwoman, so essentially that 30-day $1,000 penalty is for subject property or property owners that are in non-compliance. So they'll be fined that $1,000 per month that they do not come in and have that permit on file, upload the pertinent materials, so on and so forth. We're, like most things, we're complaint driven, so we will know we will only know of it if a complaint comes in from a surrounding property owner or interested party.
Okay, so it's complaint driven. I send in a complaint. Then who does the enforcement? Or what department is the one that does enforcement?
So, Madam Chair, Councilwoman, so it's a joint effort between the police department, neighborhood services, if appropriate, and then PDD, and then also the prosecutor's office. So between those 4 entities, we would address any concerns or issues that may arise with the subject property.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, and Councilwoman Pastor, what I would add to that is that specifically as it relates to not having a permit to operate a short-term rental, that would be the Planning and Development Department and the Neighborhood Services Department that would be working together to ensure that the property is given notice, and pursuant to state law, they have 30 days to come into compliance, and if they don't, then that $1,000 penalty would be levied, but then that's when it would go to the court system and go through that process as part of adherence with the ordinance.
Okay, so they have 30 days to get
correct
to be in compliance. Okay, all right, thank you.
And Councilwoman, tomorrow I have my one-on-one with the police chief, and I added short-term rentals to our agenda just to make sure that the police department is aware of what's happening with regards to some of our changes in the short-term rentals. So hopefully that will help. And I think we have quite a robust community out there that is following this issue, and I know staff will continue to work with them this summer and bring back any additional comments when it comes to council. With that, if I could have Susan Edwards please come up and speak. She has been one of the members of the short-term rental group that staff has been meeting with. Welcome.
Thank you. Madam Chair, committee members, I'm Susan Edwards. I live in Canto, right around the corner from Councilwoman Pastor. But anyway, yeah, I'm one of the co-founders with Kate of the Arizona Neighborhood Alliance. We have done a boatload of research, and because we have people all over the state, this short-term rentals are killing our state. They're just killing it. And they're costing us more right now than they're bringing in. But first, in terms of the proposed ordinance, the things that we would love to see are, there's no drop-dead date for STR licensure with the city. Fines should be issued to the STR property owners if they are found to be in operation without a license, either in place or in process by a specific date. Otherwise, you're going to have scofflaws all over the place. And another issue is siloing the STR program into its own group within NSD, but be allowed to find properties more aggressively, because the scofflaws, they don't care. And another issue is on the notice, the apartments and condos, it says everybody on that floor. What about the people above and below? Because those people are impacted dramatically. And also, the police, we have been begging for the police department to keep track of noise and nuisance calls to the short-term rentals. We have people who wait 45 minutes on hold at the non-emergency number just to get a police person, and then they don't get there and everything's calmed down by the hours later it is. I also want to note the city of Phoenix seems to be cautious about doing things, because why bother to search out these people, because it won't bring enough money. If we estimate there are 12,000 short-term rentals in the city of Phoenix. At $250 a year per unit, that will be over $3 million in revenue. I would think $3 million might cover a fair amount. I also have brought, but several of you will have to get it by email, a study we just did. Paradise Valley School District is looking at closing 8 schools, and we looked at the number of short-term rentals in the areas covered by those schools, and the total number of houses lost to short-term rentals that we estimate as of last December was 10,231. The number of students below capacity is 4,161. How many of those 10,000 houses, how many kids were there that aren't there anymore? And so there are numbers there. The other, I lost track here of my things. The other thing to be sure and you all understand, if you talk to any teenager, they will now tell you that virtually all of the quote-unquote house parties, we're not even talking mansion parties, those are another whole animal, the house parties that are taking place where kids are getting murdered and wounded, but among teenagers are virtually all at short-term rentals. And I don't know how to stop that except to have some data that would at least help us. And the other thing to know is the numbers are squishy, because when SB 1350 was passed in 2016, the Airbnb, one of the lobbyists said the state prohibited the platforms from telling the Department of Revenue where the properties are. And other people say we're not allowed, but at any rate, we introduced 2 bills in this last session, well, the current session, I guess. One to require the addresses to be given to the Department of Revenue. Who in the world would run a business where you've got people paying a bill and you don't know what they're paying it for?
Thank you.
And secondly,
your time is up.
Okay.
Thank you. Your points are well taken. I do think if there's a way that we can look at being more proactive with regards to registration, I would like us to look at that. I know that might be additional workload for NSD, so obviously, I don't know, Spencer, if you want to come up, you have any thoughts on that? I know generally we don't do things proactively, but I think a lot of folks that may not use a platform may not realize that they have to get a registration with us. So if there's some thoughts on how we can be more proactive, I think that has been an issue for the neighborhood. So if we could speak to that.
Madam Chair, absolutely. I think that's one of the things that we've been discussing quite a bit with the Planning and Development Department and some of the feedback that we've received from the community. So currently we have approximately 3,000 registered short-term rentals. We can certainly be proactive with those. We would want to notify all of those groups as soon as the new ordinance was passed. We would also then follow up on those. So let's say that we had 1,500 that then requested a license or this additional process. We would look to proactively address any of the others that did not, to ensure that they no longer had a short-term rental. In addition, I know that the Planning and Development Department has taken the lead on looking at several software options, which are out there that some other communities have used to try to data mine, to collect more information to get ahead. I know that evaluation process has not proved as fruitful as we had initially hoped, but certainly that is something else that we'll discuss as we move forward with this.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I have quite a lot of short-term rentals in my district, and I represent a large portion of the Paradise Valley Unified School District, and indeed they are having to close some of their schools. Short-term rentals, why they can be a great way to vacation, we have to have a balance, and right now I think we're in a affordable housing crisis, and I do think that short-term rentals do add to that problem, and so I think we need to be as proactive as possible, and we do need to make sure the police are better informed as to what happens when it's a short-term rental. I had one constituent approach me. He said the neighborhood complained about a party house / short-term rental, and the police did not know about short-term rentals and how we can find them. So I think we need to do a better job of working with the police department. Again, I'm going to talk to the chief about that tomorrow, but I think over the summer you really have an opportunity to work with the neighborhoods that are really concerned about short-term rentals. I will tell you, I wish personally that the legislature would look at this a little bit more as they try to talk about how we should approach the issue of affordable housing. This should be a part of the discussion, and not just about by right zoning, but there are other things. So hopefully next session they will look at short-term rental. But right now we're kind of limited in what we can do because of the legislature, so I think this is really a great start. Are there any other comments? Yes, Councilwoman Pastor.
My other comment is really centered around the police. It would be nice to be able to put a tag or a marker when police go out to a short-term rental, so that then we know that incident happened at a short-term rental, and then at that point we can see if it's registered, and if it's not registered, then they're in violation, and then that's where we start the whole process. I think that's one way of being proactive. Being proactive is also trying to capture and working with those community groups that have been following this to go and try to capture where are those 12,000 short-term rentals in Phoenix. I have 2 short-term rentals on both sides of where I live, and I'm more than positive they're not registered. And so we have to really be proactive with our neighborhoods and let them know the changes, but also ways that then we're going to follow through once they make that complaint, and then follow the whole process of the complaint to then see that they're not registered, and then the next process. So I would like to see through this whole piece what that process is going to be in the complaint and how it flows. And add a marker on the database or wherever police put their information, so that then we're able to pull to say, this was a short-term rental property, this is a troubled property, this is how many times we have come out, this is what it's costing us.
Madam Chair, Councilwoman Pastor, we will, as Mark noted, we are having meetings with the police department. We have had meetings with the executive level staff to look at what we can do to address just the issue that you are bringing up, Councilwoman Pastor, in terms of when there's a call, an officer goes out, what it currently gets logged in is a noise complaint or something like that. It doesn't necessarily show up as a short-term rental complaint. And so that's something that we have been talking with them on how to solve that, and we anticipate being able to come back with proposed solutions when we come to council in September for this item, and we'll brief you guys all before that to let you know what that solution is. And then we have been working very well with the Neighborhood Services Department on enforcement to get them existing short-term rentals under our current registration process, where we have 3,600 of them that are registered in the city of Phoenix. And so that has been, when we get complaints, Councilwoman, like the two that might be next to you, if someone called those in, then NSD would be going out and enforcing, ensuring that they get registered or under the new process get their permit. And so we will make sure that we can lay out for you how that enforcement action happens when we come back in September, as well as the police item that I just mentioned.
So,
Go ahead.
Thank you for doing that. I think of an incident in my neighborhood where a short-term rental was it was a short-term rental. There was a big party, and then a shooting happened. And in that incident, it was not marked, or we didn't know as the police incident, because I followed the case and the documentation, and nowhere in there was it stated it was a short-term rental. And I think that's one of the key areas to know, because we know that it was a teenage party. We know that everybody ran and left, and except those that got shot. So those are a lot of the incidents happening within these troubled neighborhoods. And they're not even troubled neighborhoods, just within neighborhoods, period. Affluent neighborhoods, historic neighborhoods, and even other neighborhoods. But we have to get a handle and a track and be proactive of protecting our city and being active in it. And so I'm glad we're moving ahead on these pieces and really having those conversations with the neighborhood. So I appreciate that we're taking on this hard task to make it work for our city and for our neighborhoods. So thank you.
So I think over the summer you can fine-tune what you proposed to us today and continue to work with the neighborhoods and with the police department. But I think we should probably move this forward. So could I get a motion?
I move this item, short-term rentals.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Madam Chair, Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'd like to explain my vote.
Yes.
I will support this now, but I have lots of questions around many of the issues that you both brought up, as well as the speaker. So I know that we're limited by the state legislature, but I do believe we should be more proactive than reactive. So with that, yes.
Thank you. And I would agree, and I think maybe over the summer too, you can talk to some of the other cities like Scottsdale and Paradise Valley and get a little valuable insight into their experiences. I know you have been talking to them, but maybe further discussions would be appropriate. So with that, the motion carries. Thank you, and thank you for allowing me to take this out of turn. Thank you for coming down. And I know you guys will continue to work with Ms. Edwards and Kate. So we'll go back to item 10 to the agenda, Phoenix Deer Valley Airport Land Use Update.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, it's a very excited and important presentation on the Phoenix Deer Valley Airport Land Use Plan. I will turn it over to Chad Makowski, who will introduce his team to present on this item.
Thank you, Mario. Chair Stark, members of the subcommittee, it's really an interesting and exciting day for us, and a bit of a coincidence, if I might say. We are here before you today to talk about the land use update for the Deer Valley Airport, and this happens to be the same day that we're rolling out our department-wide strategic plan to over 950 aviation department employees. And during that process, we talked about the strategic opportunities that exist at all three airports. And as we talk about Phoenix Deer Valley Airport, we think about the vibrant growth in the North Phoenix area, the Deer Valley area. We think about the single largest foreign direct investment being made just a few miles north of the airport. And we think of all the opportunities to fully develop that airport in a responsible way to ensure ongoing revenue streams, to ensure our airport can continue to grow with the community that we serve up there. So with that, I'm honored to be joined by Deer Valley Airport Manager Ed Farron, and Deputy Aviation Director over Planning and Environmental, Jordan Feld. We have a short deck for you today, a presentation for you today, and Jordan is going to make that presentation. Jordan?
Thank you, Chad. Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, appreciate this opportunity. And I think Chad summed it up really well. This area has seen a lot of positive change in the last few years, not only TSMC, but of course, the council is obviously familiar with all the great economic development in this area, whether it's Gore, USAA, Honeywell, et cetera. And then another interesting change more recently and specific to the airport is one of the big flight training schools actually moved from Deer Valley Airport to Phoenix Goodyear Airport. So in front of us are a lot of opportunities to kind of now replan and re-envision how we think about Deer Valley. And a lot of credit really to Council District 1 for initiating that thought process and kind of facilitating this land use update that I'll walk through very quickly. So this process started with a highly collaborative process, not just our traditional stakeholders, tenants at the airport, staff, but the industrial brokers that work in this area, the different large employers in this area, the state land department, different aero manufacturers and members of the aviation economy participated in this. So a lot of tremendous feedback, and really helped make this a great land use update. So by way of gentle reminder, the City Council approved the last master plan update for Deer Valley in 2015, and you're seeing the land use plan from that planning effort here. Quickly, the turquoise is essentially general aviation activity, which is Deer Valley, typically small hangars, single engine airplanes. And as I mentioned, with all of the kind of new trends in this area in terms of the market and other issues, it's important to kind of revisit that presumption that all of this land would be used for that kind of single economy. As Mr. Makowski mentioned, a healthy airport is an airport with a diverse economy, so it's a great opportunity for us to revisit that. We did a lot of market assessment work and forecasting. The next two slides are the least nerdiest of the slides from that effort. This one is showing absorption, which is the amount of square footage taken on by new industrial development, and net deliveries, which is new square footage available. And you can see the trend that essentially as quick as you can build it in this area, the industrial market is filling that up. The Phoenix industrial market in general is hot right now, as we say. That would make the Deer Valley submarket like ghost pepper, Scotch bonnet, jalapeno type hot. So As it stands, the vacancy rate in the Deer Valley industrial submarket right now is about 1.9%, the lowest it's ever been. This is a forecast graphic just essentially showing base aircraft, and the takeaway here is expecting that jet aircraft, particularly because of all that industrial activity you're seeing around the airport, as a predictor towards corporate aviation. So the forecast basically shows that you can expect a lot more Gulfstreams and those types of users at the airport. So, you know, in operation terms, going from about 5,000 jet activity, 5,000 jet operations today to 30,000 over the next 20 years. So maybe the most remarkable part of Deer Valley is the 150 or so acres of vacant land that's still there. It's amazing kind of the sandbox we get to play with, as it were, here. So you can see that the majority of these large parcels are on the north side of the airport. And so we'll kind of quickly walk through what the stakeholders and our professional consultants and staff all felt like was a good land use mix to move forward with. And as you see, each one of these will have a net acreage. So think about these in targets. Aero manufacturing, for example, doesn't necessarily have to be exactly 17 acres, but give or take. Corporate hangar development, we can expect that is happening now, and we can continue to expect that trend over the next several years. There'll be some additional T-hangar development. Flight training is still an important operation for Deer Valley, so we hope to also attract more of those users, of course, in the future. There's this spin-off economy in the aero economy that's important to all these other types of uses, so repair uses, support services, things like that. And then a big topic on the horizon right now for airport planning is advanced air mobility or urban air mobility and electric vehicles, so electric aircraft. And so we want to reserve some room at the airport for that specific sector of the aviation economy. And before I jump off of this slide, we heard two really interesting things from all the stakeholders. Provide enough diversity in your land use planning so that you can capture these different trends over time, but don't lock us into any specific thing so as, demand changes from year to year, we're not stuck with something. So when we officially update the Deer Valley Airport Layout Plan, the ALP, the FAA's regulatory map for the land use, we'll use an old planner trick, and that is we'll use hatching on the maps to show different types of uses that can go in general areas, and that will give us that flexibility over time. Another thing as we wrap up here that we did as part of this year-long planning process, it was really important to develop economic development tools along with this planning effort. So we developed marketing materials. You're seeing one of the pages from the marketing brochure that was developed, highly graphical, explanatory to industrial and site selector type individuals. So as far as next steps, we're ready to start marketing now, and our business and properties team with the Community Economic Development Department will immediately start talking to the industrial community about these opportunities and broadcasting Deer Valley out to the world. Concurrently with that, staff will start to work with FAA on any regulatory approvals, of course the ALP change, and perhaps there might be some NEPA requirements, National Environmental Policy Act requirements. And then all this will feed into a full master plan update we'll take on in about a year from now. So I apologize if I went through that too quickly, but certainly happy to go back to any of the slides, but do appreciate your time. Thank you very much. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Councilwoman O'Brien, it's too bad you're missing the presentation. It was quite spectacular. They even had flying airplanes in it. Are there any questions or any comments?
Chairwoman, I followed along on my own presentation, but I do just have a couple of comments.
Please go ahead.
If that's okay. Thank you. I want to thank Chad, Jordan, and Ed. I think that I took them all by surprise when I came into office and approached them with some changes for Deer Valley Airport, but I do appreciate all of their hard work and their willingness to take this on with my office so that we can offer some more opportunities in the Deer Valley region. So thank you all. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And just a question, when does the restaurant open? I'm just curious. I still remember the time that Councilwoman Pastor and I went out and took a tour of the airport with then Councilwoman Williams, and we enjoyed a breakfast in the restaurant. So when's the new one going to open?
Madam Chair, we are now hoping for early August.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments or questions? Great. Well, thank you so much for your presentation today. And next item is fiber to home code changes presentation by Streets.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. Here with me to present on this item is Keeney Knutson, Street Transportation Director, and Kevin Sonoda, Special Projects Administrator for the Street Transportation Department. This item is something that we are just starting to work on, which is related to fiber to the home process that the city will be going through, led by the Street Transportation Department, as well as Budget and Research Department, Finance, Planning and Development Department will also be involved. But principally at this point, it will be led with Street Transportation, and I will let Keeney and Kevin walk through the proposal, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, happy to present this information to you today. As Alan mentioned, this is for information and discussion only, so no action today. This is really an introductory opportunity to be able to let you know a little bit more about what we're working on behind the scenes before it ultimately comes back to your subcommittee and council for action, hopefully later this year. So this is about a potential new code section dealing with fiber to the home services in our network infrastructure services area. We have currently provisions for cable TV services, industrial gas pipelines, and small wireless facilities in this section of code. So I'm going to take you through the presentation, and if you have any difficult questions, that's why I got Kevin here, because he's our resident expert. So the first question is, what is fiber to the home? This is really a network that is designed to provide internet service to our homeowners, and that is where it is focused in. And it is a relatively new type of service offering, and that's why it's not currently covered within our city code. So when we talk about this, one of the concerns is making sure, because this has become such a part of our lives, is making sure we have access to the internet. So this is really want to cover this slide about access versus choice. So when you talk about the current City of Phoenix municipal boundaries, between the two primary providers, Cox and CenturyLink, we have 98% of Maricopa County households covered with internet service coverage. Within the City of Phoenix, we estimate that at about 99%. So when we're talking about these new internet service providers that would be in the fiber to the home area, they are actually overbuilders where it's to provide choice to our existing residents, and that choice ultimately will hopefully turn to provide improved service at a lower cost. So when we're talking about fiber to the home services as well, it's safe to say we're talking about a city code section. Where does it fit in the overall legal landscape? So this is, since I mentioned already that this is something that is relatively new type of service offering, and it is only based as a service to provide internet access to an end user. So when you talk about the federal level or the state level, there isn't a really significant regulatory environment for this type of service at the state federal level, and we don't have any statutes regulating it at the state level either. So that's why we're now talking about bringing it from a city level to be able to govern how these kind of vendors operate in our city. So what kind of vendors are we talking about? The ones that have contacted us thus far and that we've been working with. First one is AT&T, doing business as Gigapower. They are operating under this name within 21 states, and here in the local cities, Chandler, Gilbert, and Mesa. Google Fiber is active in 12 states and also in the same 3 East Valley cities as well. And then finally, Desert iNet, which is a smaller company, but they're focused. They have focus in 2 states, but they're more in the North Valley area of the region we're talking about, and they're providing their service. And when we've talked with these companies thus far, they are, as I mentioned, focusing in on the residential properties for this new service. They anticipate through any build-out that they do here locally in Phoenix, it would take 4 to 6 years to get to where they'd like to be in full coverage. And then they would be looking right now at installation using traditional trenching and horizontal and directional boring. So when we talk about the city of Phoenix and what we do license and use franchises within, to be able to govern how people operate within the city. We currently have 2 franchises, one with APS, one with Southwest Gas, and in both those cases, they pay to the city 2% gross revenues. And that is really about how they are able to recoup city staff time for providing oversight to those operation of those services, but also to be able to account for use of the city or public right-of-way. We also, but I would mention about the franchises as well. Those do require a public vote to be able to approve franchises, whereas licenses are just at the approval of council. So we have licenses to be able to cover the majority of the other folks who do operate within our city or public right-of-way. Some pay a linear foot for what they provide within the right-of-way. Cox, on the other hand, they have a cable TV license, and they pay 5% of their revenues under cable TV services for what they provide. And then we also have chilled water lines that use right-of-way that pay 3%, and industrial gas pipelines that pay 2% of gross revenues. So as we go through looking at this new code section, we have a lot of key terms that are going to be part of these potential licenses, and what they pay is going to be obviously a big part of our discussions and negotiations with the industry. Another thing, just to be able to talk what these fiber to the home companies have done currently within the Phoenix metropolitan market. In their negotiations with the 3 East Valley cities, they have secured agreements to have 2% of gross revenues paid to those cities, plus paying city staff time for plan review, permits, and inspection fees. So one thing, since we don't have that type of license right now in place, that the closest thing we have is the Cox Cable TV license, and under that license, which is a 10-year license, they pay for us 5% of their revenues for cable TV revenues only. So they do not have license fees that they pay for telephone or internet services. And then because it's 5%, it's considered that those permanent inspection fees are inclusive in that 5%. So now we're back down to the end here. So where we head into city staff is really to start finalizing what we would like to see in this new code provision, and that would be 5D underneath that. In doing that, we know we're going to be working, as Alan said, with our internal city departments to ensure we are thinking about this comprehensively, but we'll also be working with the industry as well to ensure that what we come up with is something that is palatable and works for them as well. So those license fees, since they are new license fees because of the ARS or state statutes, we do have to have a 60-day notice provision, and so that's something we hopefully will be able to start doing over the summer as well. And then once we're able to get council approval, we think that that's when we start issuing licenses. So as I mentioned, this isn't for action today. It's just going to be an information session here, but we'll hopefully be coming back, like I said, later this year with some kind of additional recommendation for action. That, I'll be happy to entertain any questions that the subcommittee may have, as well as Kevin.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Yes. Okay, I guess not. Thank you. I'm sure you're going to keep us informed, so I appreciate it. Thank you. Next, we go back to call to the public, and there are no additional call to public. I know we have several children here today. Their parents work for the city of Phoenix, and they're here observing a council subcommittee meeting, so welcome. Maybe the camera can turn and they can all wave. I don't know if it can, but wave. It's great to see all of you. I understand you guys get to take a picture in the mayor's chair after I adjourn the meeting, so that's pretty exciting. I remember back in the day when my children were young, it was called Take Your Daughter to Work, and it certainly has grown since then. So welcome to all of you. I will now adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Just hung out in the pool with the juniors and helped train them. And then while we were training with the juniors, we heard the car accident. We hadn't seen it right away, but while I was getting out of the pool, I saw the car had hit the light pole. And as soon as they pulled him out, we directed them to an area away from the car because we could smell gas. They laid him down and we immediately checked pulse and breathing and found neither and began CPR and breathing. At some point, 5 more guards arrived with the AED. And we were able to get his shirt off and put the AED on him and assess his heartbeat and his breathing. The AED found no heartbeat and was able to shock him, and we continued with CPR. After EMS arrived, they took over the scene and we backed away. Heading back over, we had realized that we were in glass the entire time and had been cut by glass. Once we returned to the pool, they took him to the hospital.
The care given was given appropriately. They did everything in their training that was right, and they gave him the opportunity to survive. And so we celebrate the skill sets, the practice, the training, and everything that goes into being a lifeguard and having the ability to give somebody a little bit more time and a chance to survive in that kind of a situation.
Did what they were taught, how they were trained to do, and began CPR, which helped his chances of survival.
Whatever you guys have planned, and women, the rest of your lives, you are going to be successful. This is something that you have to be born with. It's kind of the metaphor is, you either bite as a puppy or not. You guys bit, and because of what you did, someone is breathing. We have some awards that we are going to give out from the city of Phoenix. We really want to say thank you on behalf of the fire department, the city of Phoenix, for what you did.
Phoenix in particular is a town where perhaps a lot of people don't have roots. A lot of people come here from other states, other cities, and I think it's important to recognize that Phoenix actually has a long legacy. A lot has been lost, but there are different areas within the city of Phoenix. If you look at like Heritage Square, which is a city-owned property, has a number of 19th century buildings there. A property like this, also owned by Parks, is from the late 1890s. So, they're scattered a little bit about. We do have our oldest residence left in the city of Phoenix is the Jones Montoya house on Buckeye and about between 10th and 11th Street. That's an adobe residence built in 1879. And so the earliest homes here and buildings before the train arrived were constructed of adobe. So in adobe architecture would be, actual mud brick architecture. And then as when the train came through, and it afforded the opportunity for lumber to come in, as well as bricks. So then folks could start to build homes that looked more like maybe what they had in the Midwest or the East Coast. Phoenix is definitely a town that has emphasized redevelopment really from the beginning. The things that were 19th century, people wanted to change and make new in the 20th century, and so we've lost a lot of resources.
have a very robust agenda today. It's going to be a very impactful day, and that's why we're so excited that you've set aside time to join us. I'm going to proceed right into our agenda. We do have a robust agenda, and we have some amazing speakers today. Dr. Richard Daniel was appointed president of South Mountain Community College in November of 2022. In this role, he is responsible for the overall leadership and direction of one of the most diverse colleges in the Maricopa County Community College District. Immediately prior to being appointed as president at SMCC, Dr. Daniel served as the executive vice president and chief operating officer of Education Forward Arizona, where his responsibilities included identifying partnership and fundraising opportunities for organizational growth and impact, developing and executing strategic operational planning and program work planning, and ensuring that programmatic and operational administrative budgets aligned with organizational priorities. Before Education Forward Arizona, Dr. Daniel served as Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer at College Success Arizona, where he worked to bring transformative opportunities of higher education to students from underserved and underrepresented communities in Arizona. Throughout his career, Dr. Daniel has tirelessly advocated for expanding access to educational opportunities that empower individuals, families, and communities. Servant leadership has been the guiding principle of Dr. Daniel's efforts, during which he has prioritized developing and supporting teams that maximize individual and organizational strengths for the benefit of those they serve. Born in the mining community of Superior, Arizona, Dr. Daniel experienced firsthand the transformative power of higher education, earning his PhD in educational leadership and policy studies, as well as his master's degree in higher education administration and his bachelor's degree in exercise science from Arizona State University. Can you please put your hands together and help me welcome Dr. Richard Daniel to the microphone?
Good morning. How are we doing this morning? Well, that was a generous introduction, so hopefully I can live up to my few comments with that introduction. First of all, I want to thank you all for being here. I think one of the important pieces when I look into the audience today, there's an amazing group of people here who are empowered to make a difference in the lives of women and the difference of advocating leadership and providing support for them. One of the things that I'm proud of serving as the president here is that we were able to bring people back into our community at South Mountain Community College. So I welcome you to campus today. I hope it's an amazing day. You're in a facility here that we've had a lot of events lately, and we're seeing more and more of that. And it's great to have people back on campus. I think it's the pandemic, offered opportunities where we didn't have a chance to work hand in hand with people and see the difference that we all make. So today was a great day for me to walk on campus and see, we're in between sessions. Summer session starts in about a week. So we're now seeing people here doing other things. We've had a lot of activity this week. So I really appreciate your being here. I would like to recognize one of our own who's on the Phoenix Women's Commission. First, I'd like to recognize all of the members for your work. So the members of the Phoenix Commission, if you'd please stand to be recognized. Phoenix Women's Commission. We have one of our own, Maria Bailey Benson, who serves as one of our resident faculty members in business, but also as the incoming chair for the division of MyCTL. So I want to recognize her for her service, not only to our campus, but to the Women's Commission. So I would like to leave you with this today. Today you have an amazing agenda. There's a lot of opportunities. I was looking at the topics and looking at what you're going to be able to hear from some of the great speakers that you'll be able to speak with and share their stories, and then you share yours. But more importantly, it's the opportunity to go out and then make a difference. I was talking to vendors this morning. The work that people are doing in their organizations is impacting and transforming lives. And that's what you get to do. You get to be able to take that with you and advocate for that opportunity. So I wish you the best day today. It's going to be a little warmer. You had a great weather this morning outside. It'll be a little warmer today. but make sure that you take full advantage. We have an amazing campus. If you want to explore it on another day, I'm sure Maria will make time for you to come back to campus and get a tour of some of our amazing facilities. So thank you for being here, and I really appreciate that. Take care. Have a great day.
Thank you, Dr. Daniel, for hosting us. This is an amazing campus, and so we absolutely enjoy being here and our relationship. Mayor Kate Gallego has a vision for Phoenix. She sees it as a place that is vibrant and growing, and one where every person is treated with dignity and respect. Mayor Gallego is a strong advocate for smart business growth and investment. She recently helped land the city's largest ever business development deal, a $40 billion semiconductor manufacturing plant that will bring significant economic development for decades to come. She is leading the city to global status as a leader in bioscience technology, research, and advanced manufacturing. The mayor is also leading Phoenix to meet its goal to become the most sustainable desert city in the United States. She has fostered investments in cool solutions, including the nation's first publicly funded Office of Heat Response and Mitigation launched the city's successful cool pavement pilot, and led the charge toward building the necessary EV infrastructure to support a sustainable future. Mayor Gallego is the second elected female mayor in Phoenix history and one of the youngest big city mayors in the United States. In November 2020, she was returned to office with the highest number of votes ever cast for a mayoral candidate in Phoenix. A graduate of Harvard University, she earned an MBA from the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania. She was elected to the Phoenix City Council in 2013, representing South Phoenix and the city's downtown core. Prior professional pursuits include strategic planning and economic development for one of Arizona's largest utility companies and service in state government. As part of the governor's team, Mayor Kate Gallego enjoys a desert hike and a good read. She is a mom to 6-year-old Michael. Please put your hands together and help me welcome to the stage Mayor Kate Gallego.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Irby, for that fabulous introduction. It is a pleasure to be with you here today. And welcome to the largest city in the United States with a female mayor and female city council majority. Since we last convened, we have also added a lot of statewide elected officials who are women, and we are really leading the way. It is so exciting, from Governor Hobbs to Attorney General Chris Mays. We have a lot of women working hard on behalf of Arizona, and it's worth celebrating. It is certainly not something that was always the case, and it's thanks to the work of so many people in this room that women have an equal shot in this community. So thank you for the work that you are all doing. I want to thank South Mountain Community College for hosting us yet again. This event has become a wonderful tradition in our city, and it's so good to be back here. Thank you to President Daniel for welcoming us and for our many partnerships. The community colleges have done so much for our city, and particularly on helping people get higher wages. They have been our key partner. We have two great programs, well, many great programs with the community college, but two I might highlight today. One is our Route to Relief program, where we are hoping particularly for parents, especially single parents, to help provide the support they need to go pursue higher wage careers. This program, Route to Relief, can help with free tuition, transportation costs, and childcare costs, and has been a great program during the COVID era to try to help people who are deeply impacted by the downturn pursue higher wage jobs. I want to highlight one graduate, a mom of 3, Riley, who served in our military and was trying to figure out her next career. She was able to get a semiconductor quick start certificate and is now making more than she has ever in her life. When moms make more, we know that kids also benefit, that there's a multi-generational impact, and that's something we want to celebrate. So if you know anyone out there who might benefit, let's do. Another great program with our community colleges is our Promise program, and we're working to make sure that our young people have a chance to go to college. So we are trying to push on a pathway towards free community college for our Phoenix residents. If you are visiting us from Mesa, there is a similar program there. So just the two examples of the work our community colleges are doing to make sure we all have economic opportunity. That is relevant to this group because one of our group's goals of the Phoenix Women's Commission is to try to close the pay gap. We want to make sure that men and women who do equal work receive equal pay, and the Phoenix Women's Commission helped us develop an ordinance at the City of Phoenix where we're really trying to push to close that pay gap, and you'll get to learn more about that later today. We at the city are hoping to be a great employer for all folks, including women, and one thing we just did that was very exciting and came from some of the recommendations of an earlier Phoenix Women's Commission is dramatically expanding paid leave. So the city now provides up to 12 weeks of paid leave for the birth, adoption, or foster care placement of a child during a 12-month period. It's one of the most generous parental leave packages offered by any local government agency. And it's working. It's helping us recruit and retain a highly skilled and productive workforce. We know that parents are some of the most dedicated and results-oriented individuals. If you want something done, a busy mom can often deliver in a big way. And we are glad to support parents being great employees and involved with their kids. We are also looking at how we pay employees and are going to do, we just did a 9% increase in compensation, and it's a lot based on your tenure, so we believe it does work where if you're not as good at salary negotiations, first you should go to Phoenix Women's Commission training, but also consider Phoenix City employment because we have these programs where we think that it's more based on your service to the city and not how well you negotiate. For some of you who've been at this event for a long time, you know before running for office, in my first job, did not negotiate my first paycheck and then later found out that everyone in my department was making far more than I do. So don't be like me and do negotiate for your worth and lean into the Phoenix Women's Commission's resources to help us, again, close that pay gap. Hopefully Phoenix can lead the way as a city with so many incredible women, including our very strong city council. It is remarkable that we have both a women majority and a mom majority on the city council. There are many cities who have never even elected a female mayor. Los Angeles just elected their first woman in the 150-year history of the city, but Phoenix has been recently on the way and leading. For me, it was a real question when I decided whether or not to run for mayor, how voters would react to a woman. At the time I was making my decision, none of the 15 largest cities in the country had a single woman in the mayor's office. And so you ask yourself, is there something where voters really just prefer a male mayor? And I'll be honest, I had not lived in a city that had elected a female mayor, so when I picture what a mayor looked like, it was definitely not short and female. It was like a tall guy with like great puffy hair. That was what I pictured. And in the year I was making my decision, had a tough year personally. I got divorced and had a baby in the same year, and I was unsure if voters would think someone could be a good mom and a good mayor at the same time. So I spent a long time hemming and hawing and deciding whether or not to run. I originally told everyone I wasn't going to run, and then changed my mind. And we had a great team of consultants on my campaign, but they said you have to talk all the time about all the child care support you have, and they wanted me to do a TV commercial where my parents talked about how they would help me be mom and mayor. And ultimately I decided just to lean into that I could do it, and I didn't spend a lot of time talking about child care, and the wonderful voters of Phoenix really paid more attention to the vision and the track record than that I was a divorced mom of a very young baby, which I think I'm so thankful to all of you who were willing to say it's not about your parenting status, but what you can do. And I think that's because we've had so many incredible women who've been business leaders, nonprofit leaders, and juggled family and gotten things done for this community. So to those of you who paved the way for me, I want to say thank you, and I hope that all of us together can pave the way for the next generation who might be juggling a few things and wanting to contribute to our community. Some of the things we are doing at the city to help with the juggle include investing in early childhood. So we've expanded our Head Start early childhood education programs beyond the federal program to make more people eligible. We're also investing in childcare scholarships for employees at Sky Harbor or our other airports. The airport is a 24/7 entity, and it is hard to be a parent and work some of those schedules, so we wanted to support our parents. All employees are eligible, so not just city employees, but the team who works at the airport. And that's been, I think, a good sign that we are trying to support parents in that area. We are also trying to help people who are juggling with their parents and provide more dementia care, including memory cafes where you can go and talk to other folks who are living with someone who has a dementia diagnosis, and people who are experiencing dementia get a chance to be with each other. My grandmother had dementia, and it was really hard for us to navigate that, so I hope we will invest in more community support going forward. The Commission's Vice Chair, Dr. Heather Ross, was particularly involved in creating that program, so I want to thank her for all. I want to thank our Women's Commission Chair, Allison O'Toole, for guiding this incredible group of leaders, advocates, and supporters who are committed to taking on issues that face women at all ages and stages in their lives and careers. Your leadership for the past year and a half has been invaluable, and we want to, again, can we give a round of applause for our chairwoman? So I'll close again just by thanking our chair of this event, Commissioner Irby, as well as the entire Women's Commission, and then all of you for coming out to help us be a better city, a city that lives up to the promise of our name, where everyone can rise and do better together. Thank you again for having me.
A huge thank you to Mayor Gallego. Those amazing remarks. We deeply appreciate you so much. Allison O'Toole is our chairwoman. She is the Associate Vice President of Outreach ASU. Allison O'Toole is the first Arizona State University Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication and Arizona PBS Executive Director of Brand Engagement and Communications. O'Toole is a proven leader with 18 years experience in brand promotion, executive communications, and digital strategies. O'Toole previously served as the Executive Director for Corporate and Community Relations at the University of Arizona Health Sciences Office of the Senior Vice President. She was the founder of signature programs such as Connect to STEM, the largest youth STEM outreach event in Phoenix with 40,000 attendees over 7 years. She serves on the Downtown Phoenix Partnership, Inc. and Arizona School for the Arts Board of Directors. She is the co-chair of the Greater Phoenix Economic Council Health Innovation Committee and was appointed by the City Phoenix Mayor to the Phoenix Women's Commission in 2020. O'Toole holds a bachelor's degree in broadcast journalism from Bell State University and an executive MBA from the University of Arizona. She serves on the Phoenix Women's Commission to understand inequalities in our community and provide a collective voice to stimulate change to improve and enrich girls and women in Phoenix. Please put your hands together and welcome our chairwoman, Allison O'Toole, to the stage.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Okay, you are awake back there. I don't know about you, but I just got goosebumps listening to Mayor Gallego. I think it's interesting to be able to hear from our leaders. We just think they appear on stage and they have it all together, and then to hear about the process of even having her run for mayor was really interesting and inspiring to me. So welcome. We're so glad that you're here today. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests and champions of equality, welcome to the She Matters Equity Forum, organized by the Phoenix Women's Commission. Today we come together to celebrate progress and discuss how each one of us can make a meaningful impact in our workplaces, schools, and community organizations. Together, we can create a world where opportunities are truly equitable for all. I would like to offer tremendous thanks to Dr. Richard Daniel and his fantastic South Mountain Community College team for hosting us today. And I would also like to extend gratitude to Mayor Kate Gallego for supporting this event and for your inspirational words. It's been an honor to be able to serve as chair of the Phoenix Women's Commission for the last 2 years. The Phoenix Women's Commission provides advocacy, leadership, and support on issues facing women of all ages to enhance their quality of life. I invite you to now turn your attention to the screen to see our commissioner roster, and I would like our commissioners that are here today to please take a stand, turn around, and give a nice wave to everyone here. That's right. That's right. Cheer these ladies on.